Hi everyone, and welcome to video number 16 on Weimar and Nazi Germany. And in the previous video, ladies and gentlemen, we were looking at the rise in support for the Nazi Party, 1929 to 1932. And I showed you this. When things were going very badly for Germany, things started to go better for Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. And what we're going to look at today, ladies and gentlemen, are the 12 months, January 1932, right the way through to January 1933, when Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. And we're going to analyse the calendar year, the 12 months, and look at the different stages as to how Hitler eventually became the Chancellor of Germany. Now, again, you can make your own notes as you look through, or you can use this. Now, I've made the calendar here of the key points of those 12 months, and I'll refer to this throughout the video. Now, Hitler becomes Chancellor. We've got to look long-term reasons, things that have been going on for years and years and years. The economic problems, political instability, unemployment, hatred of the Treaty of Versailles. They were longer-term problems that Hitler was able to tap into. At the same time, there were short-term things, points that happened within this 12 months, and they include political jealousy, rivalry, ambition, and the role of President Hindenburg. Hindenburg, the great World War I Field Marshal. Now, he was President of Germany, and he plays a big role in these 12 months. I'll come back to the World War I helmet later. Now, before we really start, here's a word for you: underestimate. And as I'll try to show you, many of the German politicians throughout 1932, one thing they all had in common is that they underestimated Adolf Hitler, and he was able to use that to become the Chancellor. So, the 12 months. Let's start with January and February 1932. 6 million Germans, more than 6 million Germans were unemployed. Life for them was poor. They were looking for an answer. Now, as I've suggested in previous videos, some of those people looked to the left and voted for the Communist Party. Some of those people looked to the right and voted for the Nazi Party. 6 million people unemployed. It led to anger, resentment, and Hitler tries to tap into that. As we work our way through the year, we get to March 1932, there were some presidential elections. Now, Hindenburg was the president. I've mentioned him before. Hindenburg was the president. But he was an old man, over 80, 84 years of age. Many people thought he wouldn't stand again as president. He was an old man. But he was persuaded to stand, and he thought it was a good idea to seek re-election because of all of the instability that had gone on in the previous few years. He thought, I'm old, I'm respected, I'm well known, I will bring stability. So he stands again in March 1932 to become President of Germany again. Now, in the elections, Hindenburg is one of the candidates. Hitler, leader of the Nazi Party, is one of the candidates. And Thalmann, leader of the Communist Party, he's the third candidate. In the first vote, 18 million Germans voted for Hindenburg, 11 million for Hitler, about 5 million for Thalmann, the communist. Now, although Hindenburg had won, he only got 49.6% of the vote. To win overall, he had to get above 50%. Therefore, a second vote, a second ballot was needed. In the second ballot, Hindenburg got 19 million, 53%. So yes, he's won. He becomes the new president again. Hitler got 13 million. 36% of the voters voted for Hitler. Thälmann went down to 4 million, only 11%. So although Hindenburg became the president, it gave Hitler a sort of pedestal. It gave him a stage on which to show himself. He became nationally a very, very famous person. So even though he lost, it was a step on the road because he was now a recognized and famous politician. So we move to April and May. Notice, Hitler does not become the Chancellor. In April, the Chancellor, a man called Brüning, is very, very unpopular. Why? Well, remember all those economic problems? Brüning will get the blame. He's not a very good speaker, like Hitler is. He's banned the SA, the Sturmabteilung, the brown shirts. He banned them to try to control the Nazis. One of the things he does, he takes land. Because remember the 6 million unemployed, many were homeless. So Brüning had an idea of taking land so that he can house the unemployed. Now you might say that's a good idea, but it will upset the landowners, and it's upset Hindenburg. He was a rich landowner, the president. So in May 1932, Brüning is dismissed as Chancellor, and he is replaced by a man called von Papen. Von Papen becomes the new Chancellor. He was a friend of Hindenburg. Aha, I hear you cry. And he was leader of the Centre Party, more moderate, not right-wing like the Nazis, left-wing like the communists. He's leader of the Centre Party. The only problem is, the Centre Party only had 68 seats in the Reichstag, the German parliament. So therefore, he has not really got much support in the parliament or the Reichstag. So how could von Papen rule effectively? Any ideas? He could use the presidential decree. Remember, the Weimar Constitution, the president had the power to say, in emergencies, I give the Chancellor the power. So that was the only way von Papen would be able to rule effectively, linked with his old friend, President Hindenburg. Now, as we go through the summer, Brüning has fallen, is replaced by von Papen. Remember though, von Papen hasn't got that much support. So as we go through June, he calls an election into July, because von Papen says, now then, if I call an election and if I gain extra support and increase the seats that we've got in the Reichstag, that will give me and my Centre Party more power. So there is a big election campaign, July 1932. And yes, von Papen did increase his support. He's gone up from 68 seats, but only to 75 seats. So that's still not enough support. And in the July 1932 election, look how many seats the Nazis get. 230. They are the biggest party in the Reichstag. Well, what do you think Hitler made of that? Any ideas? Well, surely Hitler will say, we've just had an election. The Nazis are the biggest party. Surely I should be Chancellor. Don't you think he'd say that? But he did. August 1932. Hitler says to President Hindenburg, you must make me Chancellor. The German people have just voted. I am the leader of the largest party. But President Hindenburg refused. Why would he do that? Have you got any ideas? Well, here's a couple for you. In fact, here's three. Number one, Hindenburg did not like or trust Adolf Hitler. He didn't like him. He didn't like the fact that there was violence surrounding the Nazis. In the election campaign, July 1932, over 100 people had been killed. Hindenburg did not like that. Hindenburg was a very old, traditional German. Field Marshal, one of the heroes in World War I. He looks at Adolf Hitler and says, Hitler, you were a corporal in World War I. How can you be sort of on the same level as me? So he did not particularly like Adolf Hitler. Secondly, remember, von Papen was friends with Hindenburg. So surely Hindenburg will stick loyal and closer to his friend von Papen. He didn't particularly trust Hitler. Maybe he was right about that. So when Hitler says to Hindenburg in August 1932, please make me the leader, Hindenburg refuses for the reasons we've just said. So the year is ticking on. We move to September 1932. Von Papen dissolved the Reichstag and called yet more elections. Why would he do that? Any ideas? Well, he can't rule effectively with 75 seats. He's seeking more support. He knows he hasn't got enough support, and he says, I think I can get more support, because von Papen was sure that support for the Nazis, 230 seats, he said, I think they've peaked. I think they're on the way down. I think Hitler is a busted flush. He's not going to win. So let's have new elections. So we move to October 1932, the election campaign. And in November 1932, the election results. Von Papen and his Centre Party went into that election with 75 seats, and they finished with 70 seats. Von Papen lost support. He was right about one thing, though. The Nazis did not do as well. 230 seats in July, down to 196 seats in November. So they've lost over 30 seats. Why do you think that was? Well, historians suggest that two main reasons. One, many more moderate Germans were put off by the violence of the Nazis in the campaign. And they said, no, I don't think I want to vote for that. That was one reason. Second reason, the Nazi Party, although they were very effective at campaigning, they were a little bit short of money. It was their third major election in 1 year. Remember, November 32 election, July 32 election, and the Hitler presidential elections. So they'd used up a huge amount of their money. And although they did get support from industrialists, they didn't have as much money this time. So they couldn't campaign as effectively, and their vote did go down. But it's still a huge win for the Nazis. They're still the biggest party in November 1932. 196 seats. He's still the biggest party. So, should he become the Chancellor in November? December 1932. President Hindenburg. He can't go with his old friend von Papen because he's lost. He doesn't want to go with Hitler because he doesn't really trust him. So Hindenburg is persuaded by a man called von Schleicher. There he is. Von Schleicher, December 1932. Von Schleicher goes to Hindenburg and says, look, if you stick with your old friend von Papen, Germany's going to tumble into civil war. We cannot have that. Therefore, you must get rid of von Papen. Hindenburg reluctantly agreed, but he still says no to Hitler. So he makes von Schleicher the Chancellor, much to Hitler's disgust and annoyance, and much to von Papen's disgust and annoyance, because von Schleicher used to be friends with von Papen, and now von Papen thinks, look, he's betrayed me. He's been a traitor. He's got rid of me and he's taken over. Can you see what's happening? Political rivalry, political ambition. Von Schleicher and von Papen both trying to climb the greasy pole, trying to sort of scramble over each other to win the title of Chancellor. So von Papen's annoyed. December 1932 into January 1933. Von Papen is annoyed with von Schleicher. What does he do? He feels betrayed. So von Papen went to his old friend, President Hindenburg. I said, now then, President, my old friend, I've got an idea. Let's do a deal. Let's do a political deal, you and me. And here's my idea. Why don't we get this new fella, Hitler, and put him in as Chancellor? Get rid of von Schleicher, put Hitler in, but we'll set up the situation, we'll set up the deal, and although Hitler will be the Chancellor, we, me, von Papen, and you, President Hindenburg, we will have the power. We will be able to control Hitler. That was the suggestion that von Papen put to President Hindenburg. He said, look, it will calm everything down. There'll be no chance of a civil war. Hitler will be the figurehead. We will be in charge. And in a very famous phrase, he said, von Papen said to President Hindenburg, within 2 months, we'll have pushed Hitler so far into a corner that he'll squeak like a mouse. Von Papen and Hindenburg thought that they could control and manipulate Hitler. It's a very famous cartoon printed at the time, and it's a car. And it's the slogan is driving school, driving lessons, learning to drive. And in the front of the car is Hitler. And sat in the back seat is von Papen, turning and saying to his friend, oh, look at him. He's doing the driving, but we're really in charge. There's a very famous phrase, backseat driver, as if the person in the back is giving all the instructions and they're in charge. And that's what they thought they could do to Hitler, von Papen and Hindenburg. So, there we have it. Von Papen does the deal, and the 30th of January 1933, von Schleicher is removed, and on the 30th of January 1933, Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. Finally, he's there. The 12 months, all of the events leading to Adolf Hitler becoming the Chancellor of Germany. Now then, remember that political deal? Remember Hitler squeaking like a mouse, according to von Papen? What do you think? Do you think that was likely? Do you think that was a sensible decision by Hindenburg and by von Papen? Well, ladies and gentlemen, Hindenburg, an old traditional German, a monarchist, like the Kaiser, one ruler. He's willing to use Article 48, the emergency decrees, but that undermined the Weimar Republic. It undermined the government. It put into the German people's head, maybe we're better with one strong leader, whoever that may be. Von Papen, yes, he was right-wing, centre-right-wing. He believed in a strong government. He had the backing of the rich. Von Schleicher, he was an industrialist, close to the army. Both of those didn't really support Weimar. They both wanted the power themselves. But here's the key point. All three of them, von Schleicher, von Papen, and President Hindenburg, they all underestimated Hitler. They thought that they could put Hitler into power, but they would manipulate and control him. Boy, oh boy, was that an error? Was that a mistake, ladies and gentlemen? Because Hitler, do you think he's going to allow himself to be manipulated and controlled and told what to do? Well, what do you think? The next video will show the truth about what happened next with Hindenburg, von Schleicher, von Papen versus Hitler. Two sides. I wonder who's going to win. Well, I hope it's been useful showing you what actually happened in the 12 months leading to Hitler becoming Chancellor of Germany. 30th of January 1933. What a key date in world history. Hope it's been useful. I'll speak to you soon with the next video. All the best now.